I'm starting to fall in love with my wife, but I don't know how to deal with it. We got married for a green card. I know how that sounds, but hear me out. Elena needed to stay in the country to finish med school. I was broke and desperate to split rent in San Francisco, where even studio apartments cost more than my monthly salary. My roommate, Ben, suggested his girlfriend's friend who was facing deportation. She's clean, quiet, and desperate. He said, perfect match for your situation. We met at a Mission District Starbucks on a Tuesday. She was already there when I arrived, hunched over thick medical textbooks, highlighter marks all over her hands. Dark circles under her eyes told me she'd been pulling all-nighters. When I sat down, she looked up and said, "You must be the guy who needs a wife." Straight to business. I liked that. We talked for exactly 47 minutes. She needed legal status to avoid losing her medical school spot 3 months before graduation. I needed someone to help cover my $1,500 rent. We both needed to convince immigration we were legit. She had no criminal record. I had good credit. Perfect strangers entering a contract. The wedding was just us and 2 witnesses at City Hall on a Thursday morning. I wore my only good shirt. She wore a white dress from Target that still had the tags on it. We exchanged rings from a convenience store, took an awkward selfie for immigration files, and shook hands afterward like we'd just closed a business deal. Our apartment became a study in polite coexistence. She claimed the living room as her study space, medical textbooks creating fortress walls around her. I worked double shifts at a tech startup, coming home exhausted while she was already deep in flashcards. We'd pass each other in our tiny kitchen, maybe say good morning, share the coffee maker in careful shifts. For 6 months, we were like the world's most courteous strangers. She studied 18 hours a day, surviving on instant ramen and determination. I worked 70-hour weeks, trying to prove myself at a company that treated junior developers like disposable coffee filters. We developed a rhythm of avoidance that somehow worked. I'd leave her dinner leftovers in the fridge. She'd buy my preferred coffee creamer without being asked. Then my dad had a massive heart attack. I got the call at 2 a.m. from my sister, crying so hard I could barely understand her. "Dad's in the ICU. You need to come home, now." I just collapsed in our hallway, phone still in my hand, making sounds I didn't recognize as my own voice. Elena found me there 20 minutes later, coming back from a late library session. She didn't ask questions, didn't say anything about how pathetic I looked. She just sat next to me on the floor and held my hand while I fell apart. Her thumb traced small circles on my knuckles while I tried to explain through broken sentences that my dad might die and I couldn't afford the plane ticket home to Chicago. She drove me to the airport in her beat-up Honda at 4 a.m., waited with me until my flight boarded, and pressed $200 cash into my hand. "For whatever you need," she said quietly. When I came back a week later, drained and grieving but grateful my dad had survived, she'd meal prepped containers filling our entire fridge. Little notes stuck to each one: heat for 3 minutes, add hot sauce, your favorite, chicken teriyaki. She'd also somehow paid our full rent while I was gone. Something shifted after that. She started asking about my day when I got home. I began making enough dinner for 2 without discussing it. She'd fall asleep on the couch studying, and I'd cover her with a blanket. I started staying up later just to share the kitchen with her during her midnight snack breaks. 3 months ago, she passed her medical boards. I surprised her with champagne I couldn't really afford, and when she hugged me in celebration, the way she looked at me had changed completely. Not like a roommate, not like a business partner, like someone who saw me. Last week, she got matched to a residency program at Johns Hopkins. Her visa's been approved. She doesn't need me anymore. The green card came through. She's officially legal, officially free, officially able to start her real life. Yesterday, I congratulated her on the match, trying to keep my voice steady while calculating how I'd afford rent alone. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at the acceptance letter. Finally, she looked up and said, "What if I don't want to go alone? What if I want to figure out what we actually are?" Now we're sitting in our kitchen, staring at each other across our tiny table, realizing our fake marriage might be the most real thing either of us has ever had.